So I want to be an ESL teacher. So it's English Second Language. I grew up being an English Second Language learner, and that environment kind of helped me want to continue my education. So I kind of want to give back to the system who helped me realize what I wanted to do. Some schools don't accept students who were part of the DACA or even undocumented students. So that kind of limited my choices of which schools I could look for. My major specifically for ESL, not a lot of places do ESL, they just do normal education, which was really hard for me to find. And then just an environment where I felt safe, especially on campus.
Only 5 to 10% of unauthorized immigrants proceed to higher education after high school. In comparison, the rate of high school graduates who enrolled in college was 69.2% that same year.
I was part of this college program in my high school. We toured roughly around like 10 schools every school year in different states. And since I'm from Delaware, we did a day trip to Cabrini and Eastern because my friend wanted to go to Eastern. And when I came here, the environment was just so homey, and I was like, I feel a lot more safer here than I felt in different places. We've been to Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and even in those places, I felt safe, but I didn't feel like I would be accepted. I told my parents I wanted to go here. So when we applied, we came to an open house and then accepted Students Day. That time we met with my counselor, who was Angie. We told her my situation. We told her what was going on with us, and immediately she wanted to help us. She guided me into each direction of how to do the FAFSA because of my parents not having social security numbers.
One of the things that I like the most about Cabrini, and I think a really genuine reason why I decided to take up the request to adjunct here, is because I actually have, I think it's up to 9 or 12 South Philadelphia students here on campus now. So young people that I met in grade school or high school in South Philly who applied to Cabrini. I'd say about half of them are DACA, so students who have deferred action for childhood arrivals. And about half are just young immigrant students who do have documents here in the US. Some are citizens, some are green card holders, and some are legal permanent residents. And both groups of people found Cabrini to be a space where they were welcomed. There were admissions counselors who spoke their language. There were classes that appealed to them. There was an expectation of not just academic achievement, but the education of the whole person. Particularly Mother Cabrini's stance on immigration, of being pro-immigration, of understanding that this is a global society and that we're here for each other, and that we have a responsibility to each other. That was something that really attracted my students here.
One of my biggest fears was that I wouldn't be accepted, or that people would automatically view me in a certain way because of my status. So I was really trying to look for schools that were more private schools, since that all that information is confidential.
In addition, especially in the current climate we have in the United States, with things like travel bans going into place, with the migrant caravan, with a national emergency being declared for the border situation, there's a negative kind of tone and an increase in ICE contact with communities. And so I think there's a general fear in their general day-to-day life when they come into contact with institutions, whether it's higher education, medical institutions, et cetera, of whether they will be kind of caught up in ICE's web for deportation proceedings, et cetera. That's a lot for a student to kind of have in the background of their day-to-day life while trying to focus on doing their math homework or, studying for their biology exam. So there's that whole component of their life that makes it more difficult to be able to focus just on their academic studies.
Undocumented immigrants in particular, I think, are going to be nervous. They're looking at uncertain job prospects, uncertain prospects for just staying in the country. When DACA was rescinded, I know several students here had serious concerns about whether they were going to be deported or whether they were going to be able to stay. But I think students are also finding as they're on campus that there are, for example, support groups through the counseling center. There's student organized clubs that offer a lot of support to students, and professors and staff members that are really going to look for any way that they can to support the undocumented students that are here on campus.
And then particularly, I'm also on the advisory board for the Center on Immigration with Professor Rodriguez. And that's another source, I think, of support and clarity for students who are unauthorized or undocumented.
It is my home away from home. And I've never felt judged. I've never felt like I wasn't allowed on campus. I've never felt that I never belonged. I've always felt safe and that I was appreciated on campus, which I think a lot of people are looking for in an institute. So having that feeling of being wanted and being welcomed, I think is a really big aspect of people to be thinking of too.